The Atlanta Braves have officially locked in a losing season by getting obliterated by the Astros 11-3. Let's talk about it.
This is the Braves Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Atlanta Braves. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into the Braves Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby, author of the Braves Today newsletter over at bravestoday.com. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. You can check out all that work we have, again, bravestoday.com, or on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, just search for Braves Today. No Jake Mastriani tonight. He's actually at this game. Some terrible luck on Jake's part about what game to select, but we've got to talk about Atlanta's 11-3 loss to the Houston Astros. We're going to take your questions towards the end of the show, right? I'm going to put the comments on the right-hand side of the screen. Y'all, please don't make me regret that decision. But first, we're going to talk about what happened here, because Sam in the chat kind of says this right. This is an embarrassing loss, and it's becoming way too frequent. That's the most frustrating part about this game, I think, is Hurston Waldrep has been, in his small sample size, one of Atlanta's best starters later in the year here. And he gets absolutely obliterated. 4 2/3, 8 hits, 8 runs, 2 walks to 4 strikeouts. Shameless plug for Braves Today. We've talked about this a little bit, the scouting report on what to do against Hurston Waldrep. You really saw the Astros execute that tonight. If you think about what Hurston Waldrep does really well, okay? He is a guy that he's got multiple different fastballs. His whole goal, everything he's trying to do with the four-seam fastball, the sinker, the cutter, his slider, his curveball, everything, his goal is to get you to 2 strikes so that he can then use the splitter. Like that is the entire, his whole thing is built around get you to 2 strikes to use that splitter. And you saw him navigate through the order the first time mostly okay. He didn't have the best control today. And you saw Houston really start to execute. He gives up 8 hits in this one. And 5 of the 8 hits came before Hurston Waldrep got to 2 strikes. Zach Cole's home run actually came on the first pitch. The first pitch he saw in the majors. And I think you really saw, like, there's a couple things here, right? One, you see the game plan of how to attack Hurston Waldrep, especially on a night like tonight when he didn't have fantastic control. He had 48 strikes and 84 pitches. And that number can be influenced a little bit by people swinging at pitches out of the zone. I think the more important thing to look at, shout out to StatCast for having this, is zone rate. How many of his pitches were inside of the strike zone? Hurston Waldrep was at 45%. He really struggled to get the fastballs, the multiple fastballs in the zone. And it's always 2 of the fastballs. There's a primary and there's a secondary in that game. And the third one doesn't really get used, right? The cutter was the primary today. 18 of those. He threw 9 sinkers. And his first start with Drake Baldwin, credit to Drake Baldwin. Baldwin had him throw in a bunch of four-seamers too, just trying to find the zone. And he wasn't able to really reliably be in the zone with any of those ancillary fastballs. Okay. The sinker, 33% zone rate. The four-seam fastball, 38% zone rate. Sam makes a great point in the chat. He has to be able to throw his splitter for strikes early in the count. That's the adjustment that he's going to have to make, because the game plan here, as you saw tonight, is don't let him get to 2 strikes, right? He struggles to get in the zone. When he throws something in the zone, hit it. And they did. And they hit it hard. Hurston Waldrep averaged 89.8 miles an hour on his batted balls today. He let the Astros put 17 balls into play. 8 of them were hard hit. Obviously, he gives up the 8 hits. He gives up the homer. When you go back and you look at the actual hits, they had 1 home run and 7 singles. A little bit of this was some good luck by the Astros, right? Some of these balls were ground balls that got through the left-hand side. I'm thinking about like 2 different balls that go between Ha-Seong Kim and Nacho Alvarez. But the game plan of what to do against Hurston Waldrep absolutely worked for the Astros. And I don't know if I'm in favor of this, but I wondered when he was doing really well earlier in the year, would the Braves attempt to find a reason to send him down late in the year? If he stays up the entire season because of the time he got last year, if he stays up the rest of the way, he will just go over the amount of innings and days in the majors to no longer be PPI pick eligible, meaning that the Braves can get a draft pick for him in 2026 were he to win Rookie of the Year. With as good as he looked earlier this year when he came up, I'm really wondering if this is the excuse the Braves can find to send him down to Gwinnett just before he gets to that cutoff of time of service days. It's 45 and of innings so that he is eligible for a PPI pick next year. Because Eddie makes a great point in the chat. He's already thrown 131 innings this year. And unlike a lot of guys, Hurston Waldrep has the potential to really take innings. He had a good innings count at Florida that draft year, and then he pitched in the minors almost 30 innings. So he can probably handle the workload. I don't quite think he's like dead arm or at that point right now, but I absolutely do think that if the Braves wanted to try to manipulate this to try and get a prospect promotion incentive pick or be eligible for that next year, this is probably what they'll seize on to do that. I don't think it's a great idea, but they may still do it. The problem with Hurston Waldrep giving up the 8 runs tonight is the offense for Atlanta continues to not be good. The Braves pick up 5 hits tonight. 2 of them are for extra bases. Ronald Acuna Jr. gets a solo shot in the 6th. Eli White gets a 2-run homer in the 8th. And this has kind of been a microcosm for Atlanta now, right? They score 3 runs in this game. Recently, that hot offense they were showing post All-Star break has really kind of calmed down. It's really kind of slowed down. If you look at the month of September in Atlanta's losses, or I guess in Atlanta's games, period, the runs they've scored: 6, 3, 5, 4, 2, 2, 4, 1, 2, and 3. Zach in the chat says it'd be way better to lose 11-8 than to lose something like 11-3. And I kind of agree, right? I would rather, since the wins and losses don't matter at this point, right? This is a losing season. You have locked in a losing season at this point. I would rather see the signs of life from the offense. And there's it is worth pointing out, you're going to have a little bit different personnel next year, assuming Ha-Seong Kim does opt in for 2026. You obviously didn't have him most of the year this year. You're going to have Austin Riley back. But you're in a situation where this, for the most part, is your roster, right? Your DH spot will be open. Maybe I've been advocating for an outfielder, an everyday caliber outfielder that you can rotate. That way you can rotate Profar and Acuna through the DH spot once a week or so, right? Kind of build them in some half days to keep them healthy. You can use whichever catcher is hitting is hot, things like that. Eli White, also, you saw him check in at first base for Matt Olson. He gets a home run tonight. He is another guy that could potentially be a starter almost every day for you down the stretch. just something where he can fill in for guys at multiple positions. He can fill in at second. He can fill in obviously at first. I don't think he's going to fill in at first for Matt Olson, but he can play a lot of different positions. They haven't really wanted to use him at shortstop outside of spring training. If Hassan Kim's here, I don't see them using him there, but you've got options, right? Is it Drake Baldwin DHing when he's not catching and he's hitting well? He's not hitting very well in the month of September right now. He's hitting 161 in September. But you've got options here. But you can kind of see, like, this is still a flawed roster. And as good as we felt about the offense after the All-Star break, and in the month of August, they had some big wins. I want to say they had 5 different wins where they scored in double digits, right? They got Miami twice like that. They got the Mets. They got Cleveland. They got, who was the 5th one? The 5th one may have been the White Sox. They had the White Sox. So you can see, like, they've done it in stretches, but they haven't consistently been good. And that's kind of frustrating. In just a minute, we've got some time. Jake's not here. Again, he paid money to go to this game, so you got to feel bad for him real quick. I want to know what you want to hear about the Braves, about this game. Leave your comments if you're watching live on YouTube. Thank you to all you who are here. Leave your comments in the chat. Leave your questions in the chat. We'll get to those next, right here on the Braves Postcast. This episode is brought to you by Zippix Toothpicks. Whether you're looking for nicotine satisfaction or an energy boost, Zippix has you covered with their nicotine or their caffeine-infused toothpicks. For nicotine users, Zippix provides a discreet way to satisfy cravings and the hand-to-mouth habit without smoking. Zippix can also be a helpful tool as you work to reduce your dependence on vaping. Available in 6 great flavors with both 2 milligram and 3 milligram nicotine options. If you need energy without the crash, their caffeine toothpicks are a game changer. I stay up every weekend night to do MLB Game Night live on Locked on MLB's YouTube feed after the final West Coast game is complete. So these have been fantastic. There's bourbon flavor. I have used a lot of these in the Braves season. Cinnamon spearmint flavor. They've got a peppermint watermelon, which I have not opened because that's an interesting combination, but people have told me it's really good. And if you use a bunch of them, they'll even give you a little carrying case. Go to zippixtoothpicks.com, Zippix toothpicks.com. Use code LOCKED ON for 10% off your first order. Quick heads up, must be 21 or older to order. And a warning, nicotine is an addictive chemical, but that's zippixtoothpicks.com, promo code LOCKED ON. Zip more, smoke less with Zippix Toothpicks. Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. We make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right with those decisions means cashing in, because with football back, Prize Picks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes all in less than 60 seconds. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Welcome back to the Locked On Braves Postcast. Lindsay Crosby doing a kind of a solo recap. And since Jake Mastriani spent money to be at this game, his kids got a foul ball, so shout out to them, but kind of tough here. A couple questions in the chat I want to get to. First one from Dave. Happy to see you here. One of our subscribers to Braves Today, the newsletter. Baldwin picked a great time to go into a funk. Does he still have a shot at Rookie of the Year? So shout out to FanDuel. The odds on FanDuel as of 10:04 p.m. Eastern on Friday. Cade Horton is the favorite at -140. Drake Baldwin's behind him at +155. Not a lot of time left, and it's not supposed to work like this, but a lot of the voters are probably not going to make their votes or put their votes in until the postseason's already started. And the Cubs, as of now, are projected to be in the postseason. So he still has a shot at Rookie of the Year, But with this little time left, Drake Baldwin not only needs to get hot and get hot now, he also needs Cade Horton to have a stumble or two. The Braves really did not do him a lot of favors, just simply with their performance against Cade Horton. He started twice against the Braves in a week span, and those games combined, he went 11 and a third innings with 4 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts. So Atlanta really did not do Drake Baldwin a lot of favors by hitting Cade Horton. Isaac Collins has fallen kind of actually surprisingly far back. He's plus 750 on this one. It is really a 2-man race now. Drake Baldwin is on the outside looking in. He can do it, but he needs help. Another one here, AsWas96. See you in the YouTube chat all the time. Thank you for being here. Waldrep's probably at his limit of pitching innings. So in 2023, he threw 101 2/3 innings at Florida. And a reminder there, they went all the way to the College World Series. I believe they lost to LSU in the championship there. So he did that, and then he led all 2023 draftees in innings after the draft at 29 1/3 and led them all in strikeouts with 41 strikeouts. So he threw 100 and I can't do math in my head, 131 innings that year. Last year, because of the arm injury, he only threw 93 1/3. But right now, he's going into tonight. He was at 131 and change. He's at 136 right now. He's probably fine. The rule of thumb has always been don't try to go more than about 30 or 35 innings from your previous year. And from talking to people, the Braves don't necessarily subscribe to that. They're a little more intent about looking for biomechanical markers and different ways of fatigue and things like that. Some people who have been close to Waldrep have told me they like the idea of getting the additional rest right now with the off day every Thursday from now through the end of the season. He's getting an extra day of rest in there. I think at this point, you're so close where if you were to keep starting him, he would be fine from an innings perspective. You're so close to the end. But I think the big thing here is, do they use this as an opportunity to send him back down just a little bit? Another question here, what do we do with Sean Murphy? And I think this is really, it's going to be tough for a team to agree to the idea of trading a catcher who is recovering from a major surgery. Just a situation where he did not have a good year this year, right? He's hitting 199 on the season and can absolutely, is now recovering from a major surgery. A lot of the current assumption from people, not just me, but I've seen, I think David O'Brien of The Athletic's written about it. Mark Bowman of MLB.com has kind of casually mentioned it in conversation. This probably puts a lid on the trade Sean Murphy in the offseason conversation, simply because most teams are going to want to see him healthy other than before they're willing to give actual assets here. You could probably dump his salary if you wanted to. But I think we learned at the trade deadline, AA doesn't want to dump salary just to dump salary, right? He wants legitimate returns. That's why they kept Marcell Ozuna. That's why they kept Raisel Iglesias, is the way that he worded it when he talked to us the night of the trade deadline. Everything that they did was, or everything that they were offered was essentially just some sort of salary dump versus an actual piece. So odds are they keep Sean Murphy at this point. Kind of final question we're going to get to real quick is, why don't we try to play small ball? We have no speed on the team this year. Shameless plug, back on the 9th, so Tuesday, I think, I wrote a newsletter over at bravestoday.com called "The Braves Are the Worst Base Running Team in the League," kind of breaking down the issues with this roster. You don't have to have good speed to steal bases. Juan Soto has the 481st fastest sprint speed in baseball, and he's hitting 30 steals. But the Braves have gone from one of the better teams in baseball at running the bases to one of the worst It includes steals. It includes advancing the trail runners. It includes taking extra bases. And they used to be very, very good at this back when Eric Young Sr. was here. Everybody talks about the loss of Ron Washington and what he did in the clubhouse, the leadership, the attitude, and all of that. But just as important, and a guy we're not talking about, is the loss of Eric Young Sr. Because from 2021 through 2023, the Braves were plus 18 in base running runs, and that was top 4 in the league for that 3-year span. Despite having mostly the same roster, right? They've not had a lot of very fast players, and they were one of the best. Going into when I read that newsletter on Tuesday, the last 2 seasons since Eric Young left, they've been at minus 12, 26th worst in baseball. So the Braves have adjusted their offensive approach, right? They're trying to draw more walks. They're trying to do more small ball. They're not trying to hit for as many home runs, but they're doing it with a roster that is one of the worst base running teams in baseball. And you have situations like tonight where even when they're able to get hits, they just can't do anything with them. And so you're just kind of in a situation where you've went too far with this approach, right? All the runs tonight came off of home runs. Atlanta's athleticism and ability to run the bases is not good enough to not try to hit for power. That's kind of the frustrating situation that you're in right now. All right, so tomorrow, just to kind of cover this real quick, Hunter Brown versus Bryce Elder, 7:15 p.m. Hunter Brown's quietly been one of the better pitchers in baseball. 11-7, 2.25 ERA. As I mentioned the other day, Bryce Elder, after his last start against Chicago, he is second since the beginning of August in quality starts. He's also been really good down the stretch. Can it be a great matchup? Jake Mastriani will be back. We will be here to break down that game for you. In the meantime, do me a favor. If you're listening on audio, leave a 5-star review, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to both Locked On Braves and Locked On Sports Atlanta so that you know when we go live to break down one of these games, Jake has one of his episodes, or Locked On Sports Atlanta is talking about the Falcons, talking about the Hawks, everybody else who's in season right now. Until next time, this has been the Braves Postcast.